The Prime Minister said today that he's standing by his minister.
Minister Boissonnault has addressed these and will continue to answer directly for those. The question of identity is an extremely delicate one for the federal government to weigh in on. It is much more important that Indigenous communities themselves make determinations around the framework and the rules they have.
We requested an interview with Minister Boissonnault for a fifth time since November 10th, and his office once again declined our request.
Randy. As if this guy's scandal wasn't already bad enough, he now has to add indigeneity into the mix of it. And if you missed question period today, it was a bit of a spicy one as the Conservatives relentlessly went after Randy Boissonnault. Greg Fergus, Speaker of the House, you got to see his partisan ways as per usual. And there's been lots of calls for Randy Boissonnault to either resign or step down, maybe have Trudeau get involved. But as you saw from the opening, Trudeau doesn't think that that's going to be necessary. He thinks Randy can handle it on his own. So without further ado, let's get into question period.
Oral questions orales. The honourable member from Regina Capel.
Day after day brings new sordid details about the employment minister's scandal. And yesterday we learned that his company shares a mailing address with an international drug trafficker who's been busted for cocaine not once, but twice. He's been caught out in falsehoods, caught faking Indigenous identity to try to secure government contracts meant for real Indigenous people, and his company is under investigation for 9 fraud-related counts. Why on earth has the Prime Minister not fired this man?
Right.
The honourable Minister for Employment and Workforce Development.
Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, I don't know the person referred to in that article. I've never met that person. It's stated in the article, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
Let's recap the scandal so far. He said he was Indigenous, even though he wasn't. He said his great-grandmother was Cree, even though she wasn't. He said there was another Randy working at the company, even though there wasn't. That he had nothing to do with the company while he was in cabinet, even though he was. And his company got a contract while he was sitting around the cabinet table. In a normal government, any one of those scandals would be cause for dismissal.
Yeah, that's right.
So why in this wacko Liberal government does this man still sit in cabinet?
And ask members to be very judicious in their use of words.
The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Now, we're not actually going to be listening to Duclos there, but I want to point out that that was the only time Randy Boissonnault stood up in the House of Commons today to address anything that the Conservatives brought up. The rest of the time, it was other Liberal members like Duclos saying that minister had already answered these sort of questions, or somebody like Karina Gould trying to change the subject completely. But if we go back to what Andrew Scheer was mentioning, this announcement of Randy Boissonnault's indigeneity came up the other day when he was having some sort of press. You can't really hear the questions from the media that well, but his answers are pretty clear, and you can hear some of them here.
So let's separate those two things. At no time did I indicate to former business partner any status or any identity respecting federal contracts, because I was not involved in any federal contracts while I was in business, because that would have been inappropriate. Mr. Anderson should never have claimed that on the particular contract application, and no contract was awarded. And Wallace, I really appreciate you asking me the question about my family and my history. I've been reflecting on this a lot over the past days, and I was adopted into an Indigenous family, and I have never claimed Indigenous status. I joined Indigenous Caucus because I was representing many Indigenous people in our community and many Indigenous Albertans, and I felt it was very important to be an ally to Indigenous peoples in our city and in our province. I sought out advice to know how to talk about my family when I was running, and I want to say unequivocally that I apologize for not being as clear about my family history as I could have been with everything that I know now. And I apologize unequivocally, and I'll end it there.
Now, it actually didn't end there. The reporters continuously asked him about other things, like his great-grandmother, if she was a full Cree. He said he has to look more into his family history at this point. They doubled down asking, so is she full Cree? Because this is a claim that you've made multiple times. He said he wasn't going to get into his family's or his great-grandmother's, I guess, lineage. And then they asked him if he's Métis. He said his mother and his brother are part of the community. So it's a mixed bag of who knows. It's all up in the air. He doesn't know who Randy is. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know if he's Indigenous, if he's not. But all I know is things are not looking good for this guy. And the Conservatives, as I said, they didn't let up as Scheer continued to question Randy's legitimacy.
Regina Capel.
Well, we don't know what it'll take for this guy to get fired from this prime minister. We do know what will get you fired. Remember Jody Wilson-Raybould? She was fired for telling the truth about the prime minister's attempts to interfere in a criminal case. Here's what she had to say. A prime minister committed to true reconciliation would have removed this minister and the other Randy from cabinet long ago. Instead, we get to watch white people play Ancestry Wheel of Fortune. Ouch. How come under this prime minister, a strong Indigenous woman gets fired for telling the truth when a weak, fake Indigenous man gets to keep his job after lying? Yeah!
Again, I'm going to ask the honourable member from Regina Capel, who once sat in this chair, to withdraw that one word which was directly used to another member, which would not be considered parliamentary. I'm going to ask the honourable member to do so.
I'll withdraw the word lying and replace it with telling falsehoods.
Yes.
The actual word. The word which was being used. I'm going to ask the honourable member to withdraw the word fake, please.
Sorry, just for the speaker to clarify, the word fake, but the minister did.
He faked all those things.
The minister is now admitting that he's not Indigenous, so he pretended to be something that he wasn't.
Colleagues.
Only one solution.
Colleagues, yesterday there were members who were asked to withdraw that very same word, and the member did. And so I'm going to ask the honourable member if he could please do so.
I will withdraw the word fake and replace it with either sham, imitation, counterfeit.
The honourable member. Colleagues, I've always insisted, I'm going to ask all members please not to take the floor while the speaker is addressing Parliament. When it has been a tradition of this place to ask very tough questions, to keep government accountable It's important for government, of course, to provide very clear answers. But we try to do this in a way that allows people to treat each other with decorum and respect. And so the honourable member has sat in this chair in this position once before. Yesterday we asked a number of members to, when it was referring to a particular member, to withdraw that same word that I'm just asking for today. I just asked the honourable member just to withdraw that word so we could just move on.
Mr. Speaker, when I sat in that chair, I heard the word fake being used many, many times.
I will come back to this issue later on. I will come back to this issue near the end of question period.
The fact that Greg Fergus still holds a position of Speaker of the House blows my mind. This guy is so partisan, it's ridiculous. But you gotta love seeing Andrew Scheer breaking out the thesaurus so he could find a synonym for the word fake. Because for Fergus to ask him to withdraw that when that's a word that perfectly describes what Randy Boissonnault is doing. He's putting on this fake fraudulent persona of indigeneity, but now that he's being called out on it, he's saying, oh, well, I have to look back into my family history and I'm still learning and this and that. This guy always has an excuse for being caught in whatever scandal he's involved in. But when you heard Fergus say he'll get back to this later, Karina Gould decides to stand up. She has some stuff to say, causes a bit of an uproar with her opening statements. There's a bit of a pause. But this is when she gets another chance to speak. Listen to what she has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this shameful display of disrespect from the Conservative members of Parliament for this place is on display today. And it is exactly how they have been operating for the past couple of weeks. Mr. Speaker, it is time for them to stop filibustering and obstructing the work of Parliament. It is time for them to start respecting this place, respecting the work we do here on behalf of Canadians. We have deposited up to 29,000 pages worth of documents. They need to stop these games and let everybody get back to work on behalf of Canadians. Thank you.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, when she stood up, she tried to change the subject. She's talking about their behavior, how bad it is, and how they gave over 29,000 documents and that they need to move on. Well, she was actually questioned on that 29,000 documents on the CBC, surprisingly, today. And her answer got a lot of pushback from the reporter saying, but the documents that you handed over are useless, seeing as they're redacted.
You are telling me that not releasing the documents is more of a priority for you than actually acting on some of these priorities you just laid out, because you could take action on these.
We have released the documents.
Unredacted documents.
Up to 29,000 pages of documents.
Yeah, but the documents are useless if they don't have what the Conservatives want in them, right? That's the whole point.
The Conservatives would rather play these petty games than do the good work the Canadians sent us here to do.
So you really will hold out. You will not relent on this. You are waiting for the Conservatives to act. Like this is how we bring this to an end. I mean, Canadians sitting at home are thinking they haven't done much of anything for 6 weeks and the government is letting this go on. I mean, is this what's going to play out over the next several weeks into Christmas? You are not budging. It's up to the Conservatives to fold. Is that what you're saying?
Conservatives need to stop playing these silly partisan games for their own partisan vendettas and allow this chamber to get to work and to support Canadians. There is only one party that is blocking things right now, and that is the Conservative Party of Canada.
Now, Karina loves to make this statement, but it's not true because the NDP and the Bloc also requested that these documents be handed over to the RCMP, unredacted, and good on JP for pushing back on her, saying like, the documents are useless, even though you're giving over almost 30,000 pages. If they're all covered in black ink, what use is that for anybody? And speaking of the NDP, they actually are also calling for the resignation, or at least the stepping down from his cabinet position, like the Conservatives, as Blake Desjardins, one of the NDP members, had a little bit of a press conference today, and this is what he had to say.
Do you think he should resign as a minister or as an MP?
He must resign. He must resign as a minister. That's someone who is in the cabinet right now making decisions related to the outcome of Indigenous people's lives, who is right now right now, not certain exactly who he is himself, but he said he's on a soul-searching journey. I'm always happy to see my colleagues go on a soul-searching journey. It cannot come at a cost or expense to taxpayers. If that means him resigning in order to find his soul, then he should resign as an MP.
Have you spoken to him? Have you spoken to him since these claims started to come, since questions of his Indigenous links?
I have asked for him to come clean with who he is. Since then, we have not met personally. We have not had a phone call about this. We haven't had any discussion point about this other than my first statement, which was a request to ask him to come clean on who he thinks he is.
What do you make of the minister saying? What do you make of him changing his background, saying going from Métis to Cree? Like from your own perspective, what do you make of that?
This is a classic red flag. Anytime we see people shifting, this is why I mentioned this race shifting, this idea that, well, today I'm German, yesterday I'm Cree, and tomorrow I'm going to be Métis, that kind of admission is evidence that someone doesn't know who they are or is trying to cover up a lie they made. These series of lies are hard to defend when we start to see these lies contradict each other. What we've seen in the last few weeks in this very interesting case of pretendingism is a common factor in all cases of pretendingism, which is the fact that we have individuals who are claiming to be someone they aren't, not just the first time, not just the second time, but many times we see this continue the way it is.
Prime Minister said the minister will continue to explain himself. I'm happy with the work he's doing with Alberta. What do you make of the Prime Minister's, I think that was an expression of somewhat confidence that he's okay with him staying in the role?
He doesn't take this seriously. This is the same guy that said his most important relationship was that with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Meanwhile, he lets someone who doesn't know who they are pretend to be someone he isn't for the purpose of accessing public dollar. That, to me, is a real pain, and it's a real unfortunate consequence of the continued colonization and systemic racism we continue to see in Canada. That kind of systemic racism is perpetuating by people in power who do not act.
Now, Blake, we can't have you talking bad about the Prime Minister like that. Do you not remember his tattoo that he's got? He is all about reconciliation. He really, really cares about the Indigenous people, and his actions speak louder than his words. There's nothing that you could say that would make me think otherwise about Justin Trudeau. Randy Boissonnault, on the other hand, I do agree. That guy should be stepping down as one of the cabinet ministers or resigning altogether because the scandals just continue with him. But you know what? I'm going to leave it there for today. Let me know what you guys think about all this, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.